Welcome into episode 34 of Uncaged Sports Talk. It is the madness of March. I was about to say a word I cannot say because of the FCC. I was about to say the two words I cannot say, actually. It is the madness of March starting today at the time this podcast comes out. The NCAA tournament begins, a big dance. Been looking forward to this episode for a few weeks. Got a friend on today. We're going to do a consensus bracket. Going to be the first ever perfect bracket. He went to Penn State. I met him in a poker league, and we talk about sports like every single week. I've decided to have him on this week, hopefully having him on again in 2 weeks for another for their Final Four talk and WrestleMania, but we'll get into that at a later date. But without further ado, Tre Manning, you want to tell the audience about yourself, why you went to Penn State?
I went to Penn State. Huge, obviously, football fan now. I was a huge basketball fan at the time, so which clearly we're not known for. But but no, obviously just majored in sports journalism originally, so sports is a massive deal to me. So glad to be on.
Yeah. I remember. You're a season ticket holder for Penn State football. I know that. You like when we first met. I remember talking to you about Penn State football, like the Eagles. I wanted the Eagles to draft a kid from Penn State. I forget who it was, but it was like 3 years ago at Timothy's in Newark, probably, or 2 years ago. I haven't been playing poker for 3 years, but 2 years ago or whatever at Timothy's in Newark. And we were just talking about the draft, Penn State football, some of the players in the draft. I think it was about Jahan Dotson. I'm pretty sure that's who it was.
Unfortunately, you guys now have a certain Penn State player on your team at this time, so
and you might a Giants fan too.
But, yep, I think you might be a little more rewarded on who you got after all.
Yeah, I remember talking about like Jahan Dotson or something. I wanted him, or there may have been an edge rusher you guys had a few years ago that I wanted, that I was high on, but that's neither here or there. You're a big college basketball fan. I know that. You do college basketball bets like every week. You did you actually lost the bet last week. You want to tell the audience about that one? Sorry for bringing it back up again. What, your bad beat story?
Why? Yeah, I occasionally make a wager on college sports, and had I had a parlay, not a parlay, I had a parlay, but I had it where the LSU, I needed them to lose by 9 or less. They were down 8 with under 10 seconds to go. They stole the ball while down 8, went for a dunk, screwed up the dunk, and then fouled Mississippi State with 0.1 left on the clock. And unfortunately, Mississippi State decided to make their free throws and lose, and LSU then lost by 10. So I've never gone from a 9.5 point spread, losing by 8, then could have been 6, and ended up losing outright somehow within 0.1.
That's like a very bad beat. Was it a 1-and-1, or was it just 2 shots? Like for the free throws that he shot? Oh. If it was a 1-and-1, that would have made it even worse. Because a 1-and-1 with 0.1 seconds left. I feel like the player would just miss the first one on purpose, just to get the game over with.
I don't know how this. I could flat out say I don't know how that happened. That is by far my worst beat ever. But
that would be agonizing. Yeah, I bet on Virginia yesterday. They ruined my play-in parlay. I should have listened to the videos I saw. That they're horrid offense to watch. They shot 25% from the field. That's like astronomically bad. 17.3% from 3.
They didn't score for almost legitimately an hour in real time. So
I tuned it in. It was that I looked at the score at halftime. It was 27-14 at halftime. Yeah, I was like, "What's going on? Are they that bad? Their offense?
Virginia's offense. That's welcome to watching Virginia's offense.
Like how does a team like that make the tournament? You could have put Rick Pitino in.
Good on defense. They are good on defense, but Tony Bennett's offense is a train wreck. And like I said, it's kind of funny that people got to see that now on a national level as of last night.
Yeah, that was bad. Like the shots that players were just putting up were like not good. They were forcing stuff, had no separation. They were all like mid-range, like fadeaways, kind of while contested. I was like, this just isn't good. These aren't good shots. Any threes that were taken, they barely hit the rim.
Yeah.
They were not good at shooting the ball.
At least the first game of the night was a little bit better, leading
I
into
actually
that between Wagner and
I
Hampton.
picked
I don't know if you
Wagner.
caught that. Yeah, that was a great finish. So at
Yep.
least we had one good game last night.
Without further ado, though, we're going to get into a consensus bracket. For people that don't know how the consensus bracket's going to work, me and Trey are going to go through, fill out a bracket basically together. We're going to, if we're split on a game, which I envision will be split on some games because some people have certain upsets, some don't. We're going to go to a tiebreaker. I have that stuff pulled up on my phone. I have a like tiebreaker thing pulled up on my phone for a bracket. It's a matchup analysis score that the March Madness Live app has, that my friend Dan helped create this to give us statistics for how important he thinks each stat is in determining who wins a college basketball game. So that'll be the tiebreaker for our games or for our picks. Without further ado, let's get into it. So, give me 1 second. Sorry, I had a little hiccup there. So, UConn Stetson. Do we even need to really talk about this one much?
So I joke that UConn has the toughest road of all the
They
Final
actually do,
Four,
yeah.
all the one seeds. They have the hardest road. This is not one of them. It's UConn.
It's their hardest road, which is why I actually don't want to pick them in my ESPN bracket, just because ESPN like gives you extra points for your having a champion make it far. FAU, San Diego State, Auburn. That's gonna be hell for UConn to make it through that, like through the Sweet 16. Like FAU is not as good as last year, but they were in the Final Four last year. San Diego State, they're solid team. Auburn, I've seen some people actually picking Auburn over UConn. It's a risky picking UConn to get back. And there hasn't been a back-to-back champion since 06, 07. I also heard one more stat before we move on. That what was it? Oh, there hasn't been a national champion from a conference that sent less than 3 teams ever. Or less than 4 teams ever. So if there's a conference that sent 3 or less, there's been no national champion from that conference ever. And the Big East only sent 3 teams. That's 2 trends that go against UConn there. No repeat national champions. And that trend, only 3 teams in their conference made it. FAU Northwestern. Who do you got? I'll let you go first for all the games.
All right. So all the Big Ten teams. I'm a little bit more familiar with those. Northwestern, Boo Booey. Fun fact, actually, Boo Booey is Taylor Battle. Taylor Battle is the highest scorer at Penn State ever. Boo Booey's his brother.
Oh, wow.
We tried to get him at Penn State. Obviously, now he's at Northwestern, lighting it up. He makes everything run at Northwestern. I can't ignore what Florida Atlantic did this last year, though. It's kind of hard.
Yeah.
You bring back a whole team that just went to the Final Four. Northwestern's good. I think FAU wins, though.
Yeah, I have FAU winning. I've actually heard about the Boo Booey dude. People are actually picking Northwestern just strictly because of him almost from some of the stuff I've seen. But FAU has people coming back from the national or Final Four run last year. They have the experience in the tournament. FAU is my pick here as well. We're both even so far. We both picked the same one so far. I'm imagining for these next 2 will be the same thing. San Diego State, UAB.
It's really kind of criminal in a way that 3 of the last year's Final Four are in the same quarter of the one region.
Yeah.
San Diego State. They're more battle tested. UAB. I get them being a popular kind of upset pick. But I don't see them getting past San Diego State, who's very good out
Yeah.
there out west.
Yeah, San Diego State gets through this one. According to the matchup analysis score, it actually has UAB. So if you would have picked UAB there, UAB would have been moving on. But it says it's within like 2 points on the matchup analysis score. So they're very close according to that score. But San Diego State, another Final Four team. Another thing that's messed up for UConn, you got Auburn in this bracket. You got Illinois, the Big Ten champion in this bracket. The Big 12 champion, Iowa State in this bracket. Like,
they made it hard for them.
what sense does that make putting the SEC champion, the Big East champion, the Big 10 champion, and the Big 12 champion all in the same region? That makes no sense whatsoever.
I
Now,
did question a lot of how the seeding went for this one, and not even just the teams that went where, but a lot of the seeding. But then again, we do that every year.
like FAU and San Diego State should almost get put in a different bracket based on last year. They should get put in a different region based on last year. And you should not have 4 of the 4 conference champions all in from the power conferences all in the same region. Like, that makes no sense. Moving on to Auburn Yale. This one could be a quick pick probably.
Auburn is, you'll see it probably later on, but Auburn is just drastically underseeded in this tournament.
Yeah.
They're a lot better than 4th seed in this region. Yale struggled against an under 500 Brown to even advance to this tournament. I think Auburn wins by a lot.
Yeah, I actually have a friend who's an Auburn fan, and he said Auburn spread, it's a wagon. Like, he said everyone telling you or whatever was his wording. I'm not sure what that message said, but he said Yale's bench sucks, and Auburn has one of the best benches in the country, which could be a bit biased. But Auburn, a lot of people, like I said earlier, a lot of people have Auburn going past UConn, potentially. And Auburn won the SEC a power conference. So Auburn over Yale. BYU Duquesne. This could be one of our first splits. I don't know yet, but I'll let you go ahead.
Duquesne, great story. The only team, actually, by the way, the only team in the entire state of Pennsylvania somehow to be in this tournament. I don't know how that worked out between Villanova, Penn State, St. Joe's, Temple, Pitt, but Duquesne is the only one here. So
Duquesne's
it's a great
from
story.
Pennsylvania.
Huh?
Pittsburgh. I never even knew that.
Yep, they're like 7 minutes from Pitt. So yeah, it's a great story. BYU's too good in that matchup. Yeah. BYU should honestly win by a good amount.
They actually
average over 8. They actually average, by the way, sorry to interrupt. They average over 80 points a game. They're just gonna go up and down the court.
I have BYU going deep into the tournament. I got BYU here. Like, I don't get the Duquesne pick here. And where I got like a lot of my research from, I'll say this, and it's a good tip for anyone to use if you're just getting into watching around this time of year. The ESPN tournament preview or team preview, ESPN gives like a good summary on every team, strengths and weaknesses for the most part. And then you can look at some trends. That's what I did for most of my brackets. But BYU just seems like the way better team than Duquesne. Illinois or Morehead State?
Illinois, they are the most Jekyll and Hyde team. They are great on offense. They are kind of poor on defense. Terrence Shannon is just great, though. But once they find a team that can either keep up scoring or play some good defense, I think they'll fall then. Morehead State, I think Illinois wins it.
Yeah, I think Illinois wins it too. If we had AB on here, I'll reference that tweet. He'd be picking Morehead State. He has Morehead State winning it all because he believes in their message. For people listening, if you did not see that tweet, read it. That's all you got to do. Think about it. Washington State or Drake? Wazoo or Drake?
So I'm a little annoyed with Drake just because I was an Indiana State fan. I wanted to see call him Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Robbie Avila. It's just fantastic, and I'm just kind of mad that we can't see that because of Drake winning. But Washington State, while they had a good year in the Pac-12, their final Pac-12 season, I think Drake's good enough to actually pull the upset. And I think this actually is the only upset I have this round in the East.
Yeah, I had a lot of chalk when I did mine. I actually had Wazoo, but a lot of people are picking Drake. Like I'm not sure on this one. Seeing people pick Drake, I could go either way on this one. I have Washington State, but the matchup analysis, since this is our first tie, has Drake 54.6 out of 100 against Washington 47.1 out of 100. I'm not sure how it like scores it, but it does have Drake over Washington State.
All right.
Iowa State or South Dakota State?
Iowa State. Just we're not even
Yep.
gonna go. They're just gonna
Yeah.
Iowa State. We just watched what they did to Houston. They're not losing to South Dakota State.
Moving on to the West. North Carolina Wagner. Does this one need?
No,
Yeah.
UNC by a
Yep.
lot.
UNC. This one's a good one, but I think a lot of people are picking the same one. That's just the same team. I'll let you go first. Then I'll go.
Michigan State, Mississippi State. Michigan State is kind of funny because they're not really that good. At least I
Yeah.
don't think they are. They're not that good this year. That being said, Tom Izzo, when
Yeah.
he is in a tournament, and especially in March, there's something that happens randomly to that team. So it's kind of funny that they have an MSU versus MSU, but I actually think Michigan State somehow wins this.
Yeah. I give it to Michigan State just based on coaching here. Tom Izzo. Thomas is one of the most well-renowned coaches in all of college basketball. Give me Michigan State here. Give me Sparty. Alumni Ike Reese will be proud of that pick. Alumni from Michigan State, Ike Reese. He'll be happy with that pick there if he ever sees this somehow, some way. St. Mary's or GCU?
St. Mary, it's kind of funny that Gonzaga's run that conference so long that people forget about St. Mary's. St. Mary's is really good this year. I like
Yeah.
really good, really good. I think they are going to surprise people. But St. Mary's, I have St. Mary's actually with they'll beat Grand Canyon.
Yeah, I have St. Mary's actually going deep. I'm actually going to take a screenshot of my like official bracket so I can like refer back to that sometimes. I have St. Mary's going to the Sweet 16 and giving North Carolina a fight. But yeah, St. Mary's. GC 12. I feel like sometimes people just pick the 12 over 5 just because.
It doesn't, and the funny thing is, it actually doesn't happen as often now
Yeah.
because it's been so popularized. 13 versus 4 happens a lot more. Starts to happen more now.
Speaking of
12-5.
13 versus 4, who do you
Right
have in
on
this
cue.
game?
I think this game will actually be Alabama and Charleston is going to be close. While looking this up, I didn't realize Alabama is a top 10 free throw team. I think this is going to be close, and I think that's how they're going to win it, like with free throws late. But Charleston's very good.
I'm actually going the opposite direction on this. The reason I chose Charleston over Alabama is I saw Alabama does not have a defense, really, and Charleston takes care of the ball very well. Like, they're going to be able to control the ball well. But I did see, and I've heard, this game is going to be maybe the most high-scoring game of the first round. Like, Alabama's going to – these two teams are just going to run up and down the court, basically. It's going to be a track meet almost. I'm taking Charleston. The matchup analysis. Hold up. I got to go back to it. Give me a second. I got lost on there. Pulling it up on my phone because it's glitched on the website since I'm screen sharing. The matchup analysis has Alabama 66.4 to Charleston 51.4. So Alabama's moving on. Clemson, New Mexico. This is a very popular upset pick right here.
New Mexico is it's kind of funny if you look at New Mexico and Clemson because by every metric, New Mexico is the better team. And I think they honestly are. I
Yeah,
have New Mexico knocking off Clemson, and I know
yeah,
that's actually a very probably the most popular upset in out of most people I've seen.
yeah. I got New Mexico here. I've been picking New Mexico in my brackets. Clemson, from what I saw, just isn't should not be a 6 seed. Severely overseeded here.
Hmm.
Give me New Mexico. New Mexico seems to be like everyone's picking New Mexico. I haven't seen one person pick Clemson yet.
Which means, of course, Clemson's going to win. That's how that
They'll
works.
be yeah. Baylor or Colgate? There, I will say before we get into this,
Hmm?
3 versus 14 seeds on average, at least one 14 seed wins every year. And if there is a 3 versus 14 seed, I think this is the spot, but I'll let you go ahead.
Baylor is a 3-point machine. They're 8th in the
Mhm.
country in it. They're just gonna shoot the three a lot. They're gonna shoot and shoot a lot against Colgate. They'll pull away from Colgate. I don't think it'll be that close.
Yeah. I actually do have Baylor as well. I do have Baylor not making it far, but I think Baylor's better than Colgate. Out of all the 3 versus 14 games, that's a one where I could see maybe because Colgate has the experience in the tournament, but Baylor's a better team there. Dayton, Nevada.
Nevada, so Nevada is the Mountain West. They have I think 6 teams in March Madness in the tournament. They have 6 teams. I think almost all of them are lower seeded than they should be. Nevada is a lot better than I think they were what are they, a 10 seed? I think they were like a 7, honestly. I think that Dayton is good. I think Nevada's better. They also have a lot more. I think it's a better strength of schedule. They play. They're more battle tested.
Yeah, I am actually going the opposite direction here. The reason I picked Dayton on here, I just pulled up like the analysis overview. It's they ESPN, the overview that they gave. Dayton has one of the most efficient offenses in the country and strong behind the 3-point arc. And they had wins against teams like St. John's and Cincinnati and won 16 or 17 at one point in the year. They are 5-4 in their last few games, which is Nevada does control the ball well. They're a good 3-point shooting team as well. The key here for Nevada, it says, is if they can control the rebounding advantage, they will most likely come away victorious. The reason I picked Dayton here is Dayton has better rebounders and Darren Holmes and Nate Santos as their top players. So that's the reason I picked Dayton. The tiebreaker gives it to Dayton 52.4 to 50.2. A close
Hmm.
one on there. I've seen a lot of people picking Nevada though. Like 7-10s, I feel like can go almost either anyway. Dayton's gonna get it due to the tiebreaker. I think we've only been split on
3 so far.
3 games, which
Yeah,
actually
3 so
isn't bad.
Yeah.
We're agreeing on the majority of them. And games we've been split on are like 7-10, 8-9. And then I had one upset, but Arizona, Long Beach State.
I don't know if you followed that Long Beach State story, but it's probably one of the best ones I've seen. For those who don't know, Long Beach State pretty much fired their longtime coach on Monday. Then they just went out and they went on and ran through the tournament and got into it. Which is just funny that he's still coaching now after they pretty much said, "Hey, at the end of the season, you're going to be gone," only to then advance. Unfortunately, the story ends here because Arizona's just way too good.
That would actually be
But
funny if they wind up pulling it off, just
if they
despite the
do,
athletic director.
yeah, if they do, I mean, they'll be. It's just, I mean, it's just
Their coach will
a
be like,
Cinderella
okay.
story.
If they somehow pull it off, their coach will be able to be like, okay, you want to fire me? Okay, I was leaving anyway. I'm going to a better school. That would be like such revenge.
But I've never
Yeah,
seen something like this where you already announced he's out at the end of the year, and then they just kept winning since then.
yeah. I got Arizona over Long Beach State here.
Yeah.
Tennessee or St. Peter's? Do
Uh,
the
we're going up, bottom
Peacocks
up.
go dancing again?
Uh, no. Yeah, Tennessee is just no. Tennessee is just too
Yeah,
talented. St. Peter's is a great. Well, like I said, was fun. But no, they don't. Was it
from
Shaheen
what I've
Holloway who
seen,
was in Seton Hall? Now, no. Tennessee will go by a lot.
too, St. Peter's is like one of the worst statistically, like one of the worst teams in this tournament,
Yep.
like by a mile, and it's not close. Tennessee here.
Yeah.
Texas versus Colorado State.
So this one, I know this is a lot of people that could go back and forth on this one. They were calling this the Rick Barnes game because Rick Barnes used to coach. I think it's used to coach at Texas, now at Tennessee. It's one or the
Mhm.
other. And so everyone keeps talking about this Rick Barnes game, and it's going to happen, and it's going to happen, and it's going to happen. Colorado State. I mean, you can't ignore what they did last night, but they are a legit, really good team. I think they somehow pull a shocker and they beat Texas.
I was actually thinking about picking Colorado State when I was going through it after last night when I got a chance to read up on them and do some analysis, look into them. The reason I'm going with Texas here, though, is Texas has not performed well against good teams. They've underperformed against good teams. Been a
What is it, like
disappointing
three and
this year.
six or something?
Yeah, in their notable results against Baylor, BYU, Houston, TCU, Iowa State, Houston, Kansas, and Baylor, they were 2-6 in notable games throughout the year. That's not really good. They were 3-8 against top 25 teams. Colorado State was 2-0. That could actually sway me, but I'm gonna go Texas here because on paper they should be the better team. They just haven't been able to put it together. They just got to be consistent. They got Max Abrams. He was from Oral Roberts, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Went on the run with them a few years ago as one of their best players. I'm going Texas here. It's close here because Texas doesn't really show up. They're not consistent. But the matchup analysis agrees that it is close. 56-53. It has Texas getting the advantage. Creighton, Akron. Does this game really need to be discussed?
Not
Unless
much. Great.
LeBron's
LeBron's doing
suiting
enough
up
for
for
Akron.
Akron.
But yeah, Creighton is really good. Akron's just not.
If LeBron was suiting up for Akron, I think I'd pick them to go all the way. Even 38-year-old LeBron. But LeBron's not suiting up for Akron. So Creighton. South Carolina, Oregon.
I have a feeling we might differ on this one. South Carolina is really good. They're having a very surprising year. But Oregon, this is something about it right now where Oregon is just clicking. I'm blanking on the scorer. Their best player right now is just going lights out. And Dana Altman, I read it. Dana Altman has never, I believe, lost a first round game at Oregon. I don't think
Oh,
he
wow.
loses one now.
Yeah.
I think Oregon pulls it off.
I actually do have Oregon here because of like the pedigree in March Madness and Dana Altman. I got Oregon over South Carolina. This game, I think we might differ on, but you can go ahead first.
You saying that makes
Kansas,
me think we
Stanford.
have the same.
Well, you got the same one then.
I have Stanford.
Yeah.
Kansas is
I'll let you
not
explain.
good this year. Yeah, Kansas is not good this year. And Bill Self coming out this week saying leading scorer McCullough, he's out for the tournament. Hunter Dickinson, he's day to day. They're banged up, and they've been struggling a lot with a lot of teams this year. I think Stanford is actually a good team, but I think Kansas is just weak enough that they can get picked off on this one.
Yeah, I think Stanford wins here with Buckyball. I believe that's what it's called. From what I read, Buckyball. It's like high-paced offense. Kansas is banged up though, like you said. I got Stanford here pulling the upset, 13-4. Gonzaga, McNeese. This is a very popular upset pick for a lot of people, but I'll let you go.
I hate it because I actually like both of these teams.
I've
been
seen a lot of people saying that.
Yeah, I've liked Gonzaga for a long time. McNeese State, Will Wade had a lot of trouble at LSU. he's clearly showing how good of a coach he is. That he just took McNeese, who's not been relevant, and just I think they won 31 games this year, 30 games. McNeese State is for real. But Gonzaga, it's just they're not the same as the last few years, but they're still good, and they're still. I think they still get past McNeese State.
Yeah, I actually do have Gonzaga as well on this. They're a good team, like you said. Still, they take care of the ball, but like you said, they're not the same team, but they do take care of the ball. And teams that take care of the ball in March Madness generally do well for the most part. I think the three most important qualities to like an offense, or the four most important qualities I'll say to an offense or to a team in March Madness: rebounding, taking care of the ball, 3-point shooting, and defense, and free throw shooting as well. So I'll throw in 5. But those are the most important qualities, and taking care of the ball in March Madness, and they do it exceptionally well. I got Gonzaga here. I actually have Gonzaga going deep, I think, just because of the draw. But we'll get into that later. We'll probably differ later on. Utah State, TCU. I'll say who I want to win before you go here. First,
Go ahead.
I want TCU to win. For people that everyone knows where I went to school that watches this, I went to school at Delaware. Jameer Nelson Jr. for TCU. He was on Delaware in the tournament a few years ago against Villanova. It'd be cool to see him win, but that's who I want to win. I'll let Trey make his pick and explain, then I'll go.
Just metrics I have on this one, especially when it's an 8-9 matchup. We both know that they're usually very close games. Mountain West teams, I said it earlier in the show, Mountain West teams are undefeated in this tournament. Utah State's better. They're one of the best shooting teams in the country. They're better in the net. They're better at strength of schedule. They're better at points per game. They're better at defense. They're just an all-around better team, unfortunately. So while I know you do want TCU to win, I have Utah State.
I actually do have Utah State as well. I think Utah State's a better team here. I want TCU to win for Jameer Nelson. The matchup analysis actually would have picked TCU, but we both picked Utah State here, so Utah State's moving on. Are either of the teams that are playing right now while we're recording this podcast gonna be Purdue? Montana State or Grambling State?
There is 0.0% chance that Zach Edey and Purdue will let this happen 2 years in a row. Purdue wins by a lot.
Yeah, I think Purdue wins this game here. Who's currently winning the game right now? I'm not able to pull it up right now, and I know that you said you have it on in the background.
Yep. So I actually am. As we're talking about this, I have the Grambling State Montana State game on, which Montana State is still currently winning right now by 1 with 6 to go.
So 6 minutes to go, Grambling's by 1, so that's a close game.
Yeah.
Also, before we get into this portion of the bracket, I will preface this portion by saying for any game involving Colorado and Boise State, if I'm gonna do a coin flip, I'll go on a website and do a coin flip app if we split on it, because there is no matchup analysis currently on here. Shit. I just made an error. Give me 1 second by clicking that. Give me 1 second. I got to stop sharing and close out. That was an error by accident. Sorry for people watching. And I can fix that right now. And we're back. Okay, so Marquette, Western Kentucky.
Just that defense at Marquette. I don't think it's going to be that close. Marquette.
Yeah. Shockus Markets at done against Western Kentucky. Florida, Colorado. Or
It's
Boise State.
It's kind of funny that you said that you want a coin flip no matter who. I think both teams. Florida's kind of weird where they're hit or miss because they can beat anyone. They beat Alabama, they beat Auburn, they beat Kentucky, which sounds great. and then they lost to 9-23 Vanderbilt. Like you kind of don't know what you're going to get with them. Uh, there's a first four team. I don't, you might actually have the stat. There's a first four team that every year somehow wins,
Round of
automatically will win a
32.
game
Yeah.
in the round, and it gets to the round of 32. I think both of these teams are better than Florida. They both actually have better metrics than Florida. I think either one wins. I think they're going to beat Florida.
Yeah. I also saw too that Florida lost a key player during the SEC tournament or maybe before. But I think Colorado or Boise State wins here. I actually think Colorado is going to win against Boise State just because their offense. But we'll see by the time
Same.
this comes out. We'll already have the winner. But I heard Colorado's offense is like elite, like one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country. Give me
Yeah,
Colorado here over Florida.
yeah. I'll say if we had a bonus pick, I'd actually pick Colorado as well to win this
Yeah.
tonight.
Kentucky, Oakland.
Kentucky is healthy, and that's probably a little bit
Yeah.
of a scary thing for a lot of people. They average. I was looking at the stats. They average. I didn't realize some of this. They average 90 points a game. They are fifth in field goals. They're first in threes in the country. They're going to roll in this one, and a lot of people should be kind of a little nervous at how healthy they are now.
Yeah. I got Kentucky in this one. The only thing that, based on trends, that could hold them back eventually, I don't think it's holding them back in this round. Could hold them back in the Sweet 16. I mentioned it off air. No, I believe the stat is teams in the top fifth, like in the top 50 or whatever, and but bottom 100, like not in the top 100 defensively, top 50 offensively, but not in the top 100 defensively. They don't make it past the Sweet 16, and Kentucky's like the only team in the tournament that fits that category. They're great offensively, but defensively, they're a little iffy. But I think Kentucky gets past Oakland here. Texas Tech, NC State. NC State went on a run. They beat Duke. We both had Duke. We were both
Five
upset with that. But
5 games, 5 days. It's kind of just it's funny how that one worked out. Texas Tech is better. I'll say that right now. Texas Tech is the better team between the two, but it's just something about this team. I have NC State winning this. I think there's
so they're
always
going to keep
somehow
dancing.
one of those it just keeps happening. I think NC State wins
So you think the slipper fits there? The Cinderella run
for at least round one.
continues.
It does.
That's a good little reference I threw in there. The slipper fits. Never heard anyone say that in my life, and I just came up with that on the spot. I actually have Texas Tech here. According to the matchup analysis, I have Texas Tech just because from what I saw, I think the slightly better team. NC State is very hot, though. The matchup analysis has Texas Tech 48.8 to NC State's 46.1. So Texas Tech is moving on. The slipper does not fit for NC State in our consensus bracket. Duke or the Catamounts?
It's hard. It's hard to wonder how good Duke is this year. I will say this right now. I am a little bit of a biased. I am other than a Penn State fan, I am also a big UNC fan. So I am going to say I have a slight amount of bias when I say this, but Duke is a little bit hard to pick because a lot of times they lose to good teams. The ACC is down this year a lot. Vermont is a very good team. I think Duke does keep it. I think Vermont keeps it close, but I think Duke does win.
Yeah, I think Duke pulls this one off. I was actually looking at Vermont for a second, but I was like, wait, are you kidding yourself, Luke? It's Duke and it's Vermont. I think I saw Vermont's never won a tournament game either. Yeah, it's
I'm pretty
Duke
sure
all
they
the
have.
way here.
I think they have as a 13 seed. Oddly enough,
I think from what I read, let me
maybe they have.
double check. I'll double check my, because I got that put up on another tab. Where's that bracket? Duke, Vermont. May have been another team I'm thinking of. I think it may have been Colgate that I'm thinking of. Yeah, Vermont has one, I think. I think it's Colgate that I'm thinking of that's never won. But I think Vermont has one, like you said. I had a team switched up with Vermont, but I think Duke pulls it out. Wisconsin or JMU? You already know where I lie on this one. We talked about it at poker on Monday.
There's my in-depth analysis on this one. Wisconsin it's kind of funny. There's been a tale of three Wisconsins this year. Wisconsin, first one, they were a top 10 team. They were rolling in the early part of the season. The second one, they had 4 losses in a row. They lost 7 of 9. Then they went to the Big Ten tournament. They ran through the tournament until they lost in the final to Illinois. James Madison's a for real team. They started the season beating Michigan State, who's obviously in the tournament. They went 31, I think 31 wins or
31-3.
31-3. Yeah, it's very hard to think they're a real team. I think James Madison pulls it off.
It's a year of JMU. JMU's football team did good this year, was ranked in the top 25, I believe, at one point. Their basketball team's 31-3.
They were ranked too.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, when they went on a run early. JMU pulls this off against Wisconsin. I also saw too, out of the 3 losses that JMU lost to, had 2 of those losses were to the same exact team, App State. So maybe that's just a case that App State just for some reason had their number, because JMU literally beat every other team except for one. They were 31-1 against every team but App State. That might just be a case that App State just had their number. So JMU pulls this off against Wisconsin. The stat that I loved here, too, JMU holds teams to 29% from 3. That's insane. I did look it up. That's not like historic or anything. But 29% from 3 is insane defensively. Give me JMU over Wisconsin. Nebraska or Texas A&M? I think this is a game we might split on, but I'm not sure.
Nebraska. For anyone listening, please know the name right now. Keisei Tominaga. He is known as the Japanese Steph Curry. He wears number 30. He shoots light out just like he does. He shoots from anywhere just like he does. He might be annoying, honestly, after a while, but he's very good. And Nebraska's going to shock some people, especially in the first round. A&M, I think A&M is a good team. I think at least for the first round, Nebraska's going to shock some people. I have Nebraska winning.
Yeah, I actually have Nebraska winning. At first, I was going to pick A&M, but I got Nebraska winning this game as well. I don't think this game needs any debate. 1 versus 16. It's just
We're
like
not going to unfortunately have it. Last year we had a 16-1. We will not have that repeat this year.
I will say, actually, maybe I'll change my pick. I want to know why? I sent you the video. I want to let the audience know why. I want to let the audience know why. So there's a little bit of a trend with 2 and 15 seeds. I could have said this with St. Peter's as well. But there's a little bit of a trend with 2 and 15 seeds. 16 and 15 seeds, my bad. But any time that there's a 16 or 15 seed that has a reference of male genitalia in their name within the last few years, Oral Roberts, St. Peter's, Fairleigh Dickinson, they pull off the upset. So Longwood could potentially pull off the upset against Houston and ruin everyone's bracket in the country, because Houston's a popular pick to win a national title. But give me Houston. Houston, Nebraska.
I think actually because of Tominaga, I think Houston actually gets a scare. I think he gets his, but Houston's defense is legit. And I think Houston actually shuts down the rest of that team. They may not shut him down, but they'll shut down the rest of the team.
Yeah, I got Houston as well. For me, that game, making that one quick just because our time we're at too. I'm going to try to make ours quick. I'll let you give the analysis since I know you did a lot more analysis.
No worries.
JMU Duke.
Duke, like I say, Duke
Duke's
struggle with some teams
Duke
at pulse.
battle.
Dukes versus Duke. I actually think Duke loses this one. I think the
Which
run ends
Dukes
here.
lose?
I think JMU actually gets to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I actually had the same pick there. JMU gets to the Sweet 16 against Duke. JMU is a popular pick this year. I'm high on JMU. They're from the same conference Delaware used to be in, what used to be the Colonial Athletic Association. JMU eventually moved up to the Sun Belt, I believe now. But give me JMU here over Duke. The Dukes beat the Dukes. I'll bet $1,000 if that's a matchup that the Dukes win. Not the Dukes. That Dukes win. Texas Tech, Kentucky.
Kentucky just too good. Honestly,
Yeah,
and like I said, I had NC State, but yeah, I think Kentucky beats either one relatively easily.
I got Kentucky getting through this spot on the bracket. I think Kentucky advances to the Sweet 16. They get out of the first round. Colorado, Boise State, or Marquette.
Marquette's defense too much for Colorado. Marquette.
Yeah, I have Marquette as well. Shaka Smart gets it done here. Advances to the Sweet 16. They get out of the first round this year. Give me a second. I'm going through this on my phone in case we have a tiebreaker eventually. Purdue, Utah State. Does Purdue drop in this first weekend this year?
Nope. Purdue by double digits. not even that close.
Yeah, I have Purdue as well there. Gonzaga, Samford. Does Samford keep rolling? Buckyball?
Unfortunately, Gonzaga, I didn't actually realize Gonzaga is second in the nation in field goal percentage. They get a lot of buckets up close. Samford's going to score, but Gonzaga, like you said before, they don't turn the ball over. So yeah. I have Gonzaga.
Give me Gonzaga here. I actually have Gonzaga going deep. You'll see that when we come back around to this region. Oregon, Creighton.
Creighton, good team. Oregon, I said it earlier, I think there's something special out there for this team. I think Oregon is, you know how there's one double-digit seed, at least one double-digit seed just somehow gets it through? That's Oregon this year.
I actually have Creighton here just because from what I've seen, Creighton is like legit. From what I read, they did come up small in the Big East, but in the Big East tournament, I think Creighton gets it done though here. Creighton was a popular pick before the Big East tournament, was a popular team to pick betting wise this year heading into the tournament. Give me Creighton over Oregon. I did have a phone call, so it got me off the bracket for a second. Someone was trying to call me. I had to hang up. And our matchup analysis has Creighton 55.6 against Oregon 44.3. My trend, you'll see in a second. You said a double-digit seed to the Sweet 16. You'll see who I have in a second. Actually, on the next bracket, you'll probably be able to guess fairly easily. But Texas, Tennessee.
Texas and Tennessee. I think Tennessee is. Texas losing round one either way. So, but I have Tennessee. They're just too good at every position when Texas is.
Yeah, I have Tennessee as well. Dalton Connect, I've heard, is like one of the best players to watch in this tournament. Give me Tennessee over Texas. Texas keeps coming up small. In big games, it's going to be no different here. Tennessee wins. Dayton, Arizona. Did the Dayton Flyers fly to the Sweet 16?
No. Arizona is. Yeah. Arizona is just on another level right now. I have Arizona going past this one, and they're going to probably go far. So.
Yeah, I have Arizona winning this against Dayton. I don't think it's going to be relatively close. Arizona's got an elite offense. Give me Arizona. Baylor, New Mexico. This could be a game we differ on.
Yeah, this is it's funny because I mentioned I have at least one double-digit C going, and that was going to be Oregon. It's also New Mexico.
Yeah, I think
New Mexico is undefeated, and I think they're real.
I have New Mexico going to the Sweet 16 as well. I like the Lobos in this tournament. New Mexico gets done against Baylor. St. Mary's, Alabama.
This is the one game that if you told me either of these teams win, it wouldn't shock me. For this pick case, I have St. Mary's, but Alabama wins. I could be sweet, honestly, on either one of these teams winning against each other.
So, what would I pick here? Sorry, I got off track because the text my friend sending me his bracket in a thing didn't submit for some reason or erased, which I got no clue how that would happen. You said, who did you say again? My bad.
I had St. Mary's.
St. Mary's. I'm likely picking St. Mary's here. I just want to double check before I pick. I want to double check something here. Pretty sure I'm going with St. Mary's. Give me St. Mary's here, actually. I picked St. Mary's over Charleston. I picked Charleston over Alabama. Give me St. Mary's. I don't need to double check. UNC, Michigan State. Does Tom Izzo move on, or did the Tar Heels move on?
No,
Erase all your bias.
I can erase all my biases all I want. UNC is my Michigan State's not good.
Yeah,
So,
I take UNC here. This is almost a classic game of like just March Madness. It just seems like a classic March Madness game. North Carolina, Michigan State, just in terms of name recognition.
yeah.
But give me UNC. Drake, Iowa State.
Iowa State is just like I said, it's hard to ignore the Houston game, but Iowa State just what they've done all season. Iowa State wins.
Yeah, I have Iowa State here as well. They just demolished Houston in the national not the national championship, the Big 12 championship. Moving on to BYU, Illinois.
Remember earlier I said Illinois, if they find a team that can score with them, or if they find a team that can play defense, that Illinois is going to struggle. BYU does both. They play defense, they score. I think actually this is where Illinois run ends. So I think by BYU over Illinois for that reason.
I got BYU moving on as well. Warriors the same on a lot of picks for the most part. San Diego State, Auburn.
Auburn's again criminally undefeated. Auburn's going to advance on this one.
Yeah, I have Auburn moving on here. I think there's a chance Auburn can knock off UConn, but not sure yet on that. Probably changing my pick in the ESPN bracket challenge because of that to my national champion pick at least. But give me Auburn over San Diego State. UConn, FAU.
UConn. Just this is going to be them trying to. This is the UConn. They're just so good. And at Florida Atlantic, they're not the same team.
Yeah, I got UConn over Auburn. I mean FAU here. UConn, Auburn, Sweet 16.
This should be a Final Four, at worst, Elite Eight matchup, and then we're getting in the round way too early. It's just so hard. Either way, whoever wins, I think could probably win the region. I'm going to go UConn.
Yeah, I'm picking UConn over Auburn here, but Auburn should be able to get out of this. Like if they're in another region, I think Auburn would have a legit shot to go to the Final Four, like you just said. But I got UConn here over Auburn. UConn's the defending national champion. They've been great all year. I think they get through here. Except the one thing that's going to hurt them, which I haven't taken into account yet, that could hurt them for that Elite Eight matchup. Just going through an entire run last year, going on a run this year. You go through FAU and Auburn. That could hurt you in the later rounds of the tournament just because you could get fatigued by the end of it. But moving on, BYU or Iowa State?
So while I was looking this up, BYU, Iowa State, they're both Big 12 teams now, which is still weird to say that BYU's in the Big 12. They met at BYU. BYU won by 15. They met at Iowa State. Iowa State won by 5. BYU has a weird they know how to play Iowa State, and I think this is going to be close. I think Iowa State, though, finds it.
I actually have BYU here. BYU's my pick just in this matchup just because I think their offense and defense is really good. Like you said, really good shooting team. They have what I value in a March Madness team. I think BYU gets through here. You have Iowa State. The matchup analysis has BYU 62.2 to 59.8. So BYU versus UConn is gonna be our Elite Eight matchup in that region, which, like you said it's gonna be close. That would be an entertaining game there. BYU versus UConn. It at least should be Auburn there against UConn. Like Auburn would beat BYU most likely. Like Auburn's
There's just so
terminally
many.
just in a bad spot.
Yeah, there's just so many good teams in this region, and it's just
Yeah.
yeah.
North Carolina, St. Mary's.
Just UNC, just the talent.
Yeah.
They have
I,
so much offense to take care of the Mirrors.
I have UNC getting through here against St. Mary's. New Mexico, Arizona.
The run ends here for the Lobos. Arizona scores almost 90 a game. They're gonna be too good to.
I have the
For New
same
Mexico.
pick. We got a good consensus on most of these picks for the most part. There's not like many where you've had disagreements on. It's all like the toss-up
Mhm.
games that a lot of people have been saying. Creighton, Tennessee. I think we
You want
could
to
have a
finish the?
disagreement here.
I'll say you want to finish the to go to the Final Four on that one.
What was it?
You want to go into the UNC Arizona one, or
We will in a second. Gonna do the Creighton,
okay.
Tennessee, go up and then back down.
Okay. I have Tennessee. I think there's something special out there this year.
Dalton Connect's gonna be hard for Creighton to beat, but I think Creighton's just it's something about Creighton. They're almost becoming like they were mid-major or not a mid-major for a while, but like a middling team in March Madness for a while, and they're starting to finally climb in the rankings, almost like Gonzaga did at a period of time. They were always like a 7 through 11 seed, 5 through 11 seed, and then climb their way up. Creighton's starting to do that now. I got Creighton here over Tennessee. Our matchup analysis to move on to the Elite Eight has Tennessee 59.6 over Creighton. It's 55.6. Purdue, Gonzaga.
Just not the same Gonzaga that we've seen under Mark Few. I think Purdue actually gets through.
The thing that's stopping me from picking Purdue here is Big Ten teams just choking in the NCAA tournament. I think Gonzaga is a solid team. I think for some reason, Big Ten teams, it's a trend, just don't do well in the tournament. I'm taking Gonzaga here. And there's always the 5 seed that makes the Elite Eight, at least one 5 seed. That's the other trend. 5 or higher. Give me Gonzaga here. Gonzaga is my 5 seed. Oh, wait. Sorry, I accidentally clicked it. The matchup analysis actually does have Gonzaga 68.2 to Purdue 61.9. So Gonzaga is our 5 seed moving on. Kentucky, Marquette.
This is gonna be that one is gonna be good. Because of Marquette's defense, Kentucky's offense, I think Kentucky is going to just outscore Marquette.
Yeah, I have Kentucky getting through this game, and it's Kentucky. Shaka Smart's team didn't get it done last year. They fell early. I think they get to the Sweet 16 this year like we have them in. But give me Kentucky here. I got Kentucky going to the Elite Eight. Houston, James Madison.
Houston's too good.
Yeah.
James Madison's fun to watch, but Houston's just too good for in that matchup.
I think the slipper falls off here for the Dukes. That Houston moves on. To go to the Final Four, to go to Arizona, Houston, Kentucky.
It's kind of funny how my reasoning was Kentucky's offense, Marquette defense. I'm going to pick Kentucky. It's actually kind of funny because Houston has a better defense statistically than Marquette does. I actually think Houston does advance, though. They'll get to the Final Four.
Yeah, I got Houston here over Kentucky. Houston's one of my is potentially going to be my national champion pick. I'm not sure yet in my main bracket. So this one throws me off a little. Gonzaga, Tennessee. I had Gonzaga, Creighton. I'll let you go first though, and then I'll give my pick. We'll see if we're the same on this game. I believe we
Uh,
might be now.
well, actually, because I had Purdue, Tennessee, but I had actually this. It's kind of funny that you brought up the fact that Big Ten teams don't usually get to the Final Four now. I had this is where I had Purdue losing. I think Tennessee actually would get past Purdue,
Ye-
would get past Gonzaga.
Yeah, I got Tennessee getting past Gonzaga here. I actually had Gonzaga in my Final Four, but I got Tennessee getting past Gonzaga here to get to the Final Four. I think they're a better matchup than for Gonzaga than Creighton is. Moving on to the next side of the bracket, North Carolina, Arizona.
When I'm doing these, I love when people always say, "Oh, am I gonna let my fandom ever take hold of things?" This is the Caleb Love game. Caleb Love was a star at UNC,
Yeah,
transferred to Arizona. This would be an amazing game. I'm gonna hate to say this. I think Arizona knocks off UNC.
I have UNC getting through here because of the one trend. Like I said in the beginning of the episode, I'm a trendsman when it comes to like doing my brackets. There's a trend that teams from out west haven't won a national title since 1997. That's before I was born.
And that was
That's a
Arizona,
long
by the
time
way.
ago. What was that?
97, I believe, was 97 was Arizona, I believe.
Yeah, no one's won out west since 97. Now, the one thing that trend's thrown out the window if Arizona makes a Final Four. We'll see according to the matchup analysis in a second. But
And before you do that, ironically, though, one other reason why I thought also Arizona is going to win, where this game is. This is in LA.
yeah,
This is going to be an
this game's
all
in LA,
Arizona
so they
crowd.
do have
Yeah, they have home
they
crowd.
do have an advantage there. That actually might make me change my pick too. They don't have to travel. If they win, I might wind up if they win this game, there's a good chance I think they could get to the national championship, given they'd have home court advantage in Glendale. I got UNC though, like I said. The matchup analysis has Arizona 72.9 to UNC's 59. Arizona rolls according to the matchup analysis over North Carolina. UConn, BYU.
Just give me UConn.
Yeah,
Just like I said, everything
that's easy
with
through here.
how much they've had to get through this region, I think it might be the toughest region, but I think they get through it.
Even after being a little battle tested, they eventually get through here. Now, I think I'll go first on this UConn Arizona pick. I think because of the run that UConn has had to go through to get to this point, it catches up to them eventually. I think it's a type of thing that can catch up to a team eventually. Like I said, can catch up to you. Fatigue can catch up to you eventually. So when it gets late, the final minutes of the game, when fatigue's catching up to you, I think the hometown crowd is going to help propel Arizona over UConn here because UConn is going to be fatigued from a deep run last year, another deep run this year. Arizona gets it done.
It's kind of funny that the 4 teams that we have in our Final Four here are the same 4 teams I had coming into this. UConn and Arizona. UConn, I understand Arizona's the better team. This is going to be a tight game. UConn is, as you put last year, the fact that they've done this before, they've been here before, and Arizona has not. Caleb Love has, Arizona hasn't. I think UConn actually gets to the championship, and they'll fight for another one.
The matchup analysis has Arizona 72.9, UConn 68.4. Arizona is going to the national championship. They get the job done at home to head to the national championship. Will they break the trend of a team out west winning it all? And my Final Four, I have UConn, Houston, UNC, Gonzaga. So this is really just a combination of both of our brackets. Like I have Gonzaga going to the Final Four. You have them getting eliminated in the Sweet 16. We have them combined getting eliminated in the Elite Eight. It's a true consensus bracket, basically, with that. Houston, Tennessee.
I think Houston, Houston's defense. I love them. I love watching them play. I think they are. I think they want. Not that they deserve to get the national championship. I think they basically, after all the last couple of years being high seeded, falling where it matters, I think they get through.
Having UConn out of here already, there's only one other. Actually, Houston meets every single criteria for a national champion. There's a bunch of criteria that like past national champions have all met. Houston and North Carolina are the only two teams that meet every single criteria. Give me Houston right here to go to the national champion. Houston, Arizona.
So it's funny because when we were doing this and picked all of our teams, I had UConn, Houston in the national championship. I had Houston going back to back. I'm sorry, UConn going back to back, especially because they were 1 and 2 in Ken Palm, 1 and 2 in net. But for this sake, we have Arizona, and Arizona. It's the Arizona offense, the Houston defense. If this is the case, I do have Arizona at home. It would have to be Arizona to win a title.
The only trend that Arizona did not meet for the criteria is the out west thing, which could just be a like mirage type of thing. Like I don't get like why that is. Like why teams from the west don't win. It could be something to do with the travel. For this game, though, Arizona doesn't have to travel, but Houston doesn't meet all the criteria. Houston would be my pick in this. The matchup analysis has for the national championship at State Farm Stadium. And this isn't even taking into account home court advantage. Has Arizona 72.9 to Houston's 58.8. Arizona rolls in the national championship. And what would be our score? What's a good score for a national championship in college basketball?
If it was between these two teams, I would say it'd probably be about like 74, 75 to probably 67.
74, 75 to 67. Since it's a national championship, I'm going to say 75. I'll go with your score. I'm not sure of a good score. I would have said like 75, 70 or 75, 72. So I'll do 75, 70. Meet in the middle consensus. Because I would have said 75, 72. That's the average score of like a college basketball game this year from what I read. So Arizona wins the national championship 75 to 70 against Houston at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. They get the job done and are your national champions. It should be a very fun tournament. I hope next week I might actually have a college basketball announcer coming on. You've probably heard his voice sometimes before, Mike Corey of ESPN. I've told you guys about him at poker before. But it should be a very fun tournament. We just completed the first ever perfect bracket. So when we're on TV and this podcast blows up because of it, thank you. We'll be on TV. We'll be talking about the first ever perfect bracket. We'll be like, yeah, was this a consensus bracket done on my rinky dink podcast here on Cage Sports Talk? And we somehow pulled off the first ever bracket. That'll do it for this. It was nice having you on, Trey.
Appreciate the invite. Thanks so much.
Next week or 2 weeks from now, hopefully I can have you on again. Talk about the Final Four, see how our bracket did, and then give WrestleMania picks. As WrestleMania is in Philadelphia, I might actually get off of here and go buy tickets. I'm not sure yet. Looking at like $400, which I'm about to cry when I spend it. What I'll be spending it. That'll do it for this episode of Uncaged Sports Talk. Tune in next week for MLB talk, potentially You have Sweet 16, Elite 8 talk. Tune in next week. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe on all of our platforms. It is greatly appreciated.